Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrinala, and I come to you from the Pacific Northwest, where I live with my husband, 2 horses that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management Wild Horse Adoption Program, and 2 kitties we adopted from the local animal shelter. Information about these adoption programs will be in the show notes for every episode. The purpose of this podcast is to share real-life stories that hopefully are relatable to other crafters who might be interested in horses. The format of this podcast starts with a walk to the barn to feed the horses, catch up on the week, share my knitting projects, and other interests like bicycling or hiking. I also talk about vegetable gardening and cooking. I hope you bring your favorite beverage and a fun, crafty project to work on. Enjoy! Good morning, friends. Happy Friday, April 17th, 2025. We're gonna walk out to the barn and feed the horses. It's trying to be spring. It's probably in the high 30s right now. I don't think we've had a frost in a little while, but still a little chilly for springtime. And there's been quite a lot of snow in the mountains. So first thing we do is we go to the pump house and we turn on the water to the barn. And we listen to the birds sing. I have to admit, this is one of my favorite times of the year. You can probably see how dirty my vest is. It's fleece, of course, and Odin is shedding like crazy. So I just come back from the barn just covered in hair and dirt, and well, that's just the way it is this time of year. I just have to make sure I wear barn clothes, which stay in the laundry room. So let's talk about where we left off. So Braggy had a trailer lesson last week. He went for a ride. He did great. My trainer feels confident that he is solid enough in the trailer that we can work on something else. So we are going to do something else today. Odin is still doing his rehab. In fact, I'm going to feed him their breakfast and then do his 8 minutes of exercises today. I did not have a riding lesson last week because I failed to notice on the calendar that it was spring break. So I went out to the barn, noticed it was awfully quiet. There was one other person there who also had made that mistake. She keeps her horse there, so she was able to just bring her out and groom her. So I sat and chatted with her for a little bit while I looked up the schedule on my phone. It's like, oh, it is spring break. So came back home and went for a bike ride. It was beautiful. Hi, Braggy. So Braggy has been practicing being in his pen. See if I can show both of these guys. So there's O. There's Braggy. And the reason for that is I'm just trying to build some connection with Braggy, and it's easier to do that in his pen. I want him to come to me with the same amount of enthusiasm as Odin does. Well, maybe not quite, but enthusiasm in as much as Braggy can muster. But he still kind of avoids me. So when I approach him, I try to make it worth his while. Like, hey, we're going to play a fun game. How about some food? So he's only in his pen overnight, but I am going to feed breakfast and leave him in his pen because I'm going to drop the phone and then take Odin for a walk after Odin has a little chance to have some breakfast. So I'll see you soon. Well, hello, friends. I was just looking at Ravelry on my computer for the next project that I am going to cast on. And I'm not going to cast it on in a couple weeks because I still have works in progress that need to be finished. But first of all, what am I wearing? I am wearing a sweater from one of my favorite books to knit from. I'm getting my chair caught up in my cords. This is the Backlit Tee. It's by Stephanie Lotven. It's in the Knit Happy with Self-Striping Yarn book. I've gotten a lot of use out of that book, and I'll show you one of the whips that I am knitting from that. So I knit kind of it's a short sleeve sweater. I had some yarn, extra yarn, so I intended to knit a long sleeve, but it ended up being elbow length, which is totally fine with me. As you can see, it's all over color work. It's a very fun pattern. I think Stephanie does brilliant color work. I'm watching a bird kind of spiral up a tree, interestingly, outside my window. Anyway, you only ever have to do 2 colors at a time. And so even if she has, oh, it's a squirrel. Okay. Wow. And even when there are 3 colors, which I'll show you in my one of my whips, you just slip the color so that you're still only managing 2 colors at a time. So it's pretty great. Hopefully I can remember the name of this pattern when I get to, well, why don't I just tell you about it now? So this is for a knit along that's with the Love and Stitches membership. Nitty Natty hosts this, and it is a summer tea knit along that starts May 1st, and the pattern is by Rebecca Clow. She has a podcast, I think. I used to watch her podcast all the time, but the amount of knitting she does is rather overwhelming, so I had to stop. But I love her patterns. I've knit at least one of her patterns. I have knit the what's it called? I think it's called the cardigan, and it's out of a gray yarn. I will try to at least, I know I've been lax on the show notes lately because I have been using my phone to record, and so I just upload from my phone, and it's upload to YouTube, I mean. So it's made me become, you could say, more efficient, or you could say lazy, and both would be right. Anyway, the pattern that I am picking is Staff and Light. It is a all over patterned sweater. It looks very interesting. It's either fingering weight held double or DK, and I have quite a stash of DK, so I am going to hopefully find a color that has enough yardage. And I think I need, for the size, I think I'm going to knit the 3rd size. I need like 700, yeah, about 700 yards, 800 yards. No, 731. Look at the right. 731 yards. So I will, as soon as I get done recording, I am going to look in my yarn closet and see. But let's catch up on some of the knitting. I'm going to put the computer down. I think this is episode 197, so welcome. I'm going to try to stay in frame. It's harder with my phone because I don't use a tripod. So I have my phone in a holder that is propped up on a very thick collection of poems by Emily Dickinson. Have I read it? Not all of it, but I love poetry, so I think that's one of the things that I would like to get back engaged someday when I have more time. So what have I been working on? I have been working, let's just talk, since I've been on the Stephanie Lotven train, let's just talk about this whip. This is the book. I have knit two of the, this is the backlit tee. I have knit this one. This is the bright axis tee. So what I didn't mention is that this pattern is, it's a solid color, and then the contrast color is a self-striping yarn, which was a Freckled Whimsy colorway. So this sweater that I'm knitting is supposed to be a cardigan. It is the sock arms cardigan, and I made it a sock arms pullover. So I'm making some progress on the sleeve. So, you know, and I think it's really fun. So I can't remember how many more, let me see. I want to say I have about 25 more rounds of this decrease section. So there's a decrease section every fourth round, and then I haven't read far enough ahead to see what is next. And my intention is to, if I have enough yarn, is to do the ribbing in this contrast color. This is Jeepers Creepers by Freckled Whimsy, and the main colorway is a Knit Picks Gloss, which is a merino silk blend, and it is in the colorway Clarity. I probably have enough yarn to do the ribbing, and I may actually do the ribbing in this color because this is the last I have of it, and I just want to use it up. It's a merino silk, so I'm not really going to use it for anything else, whereas the this is a 75-25, and I can use that in scrappy projects and not worry about how I'm going to wash something that has made of different yarn. I mean, wash like socks or a blanket or something like that, that I'm not normally inclined to hand wash. This is a bag made by my husband. I'll show you the worn outside. It's well loved. It's a faux leather. He made this from scraps with his industrial sewing machine. And this is a belt, and it's lined with this nifty felt. So love this bag, obviously. So it's definitely well used. So Stephanie Lotven, if you haven't checked out her projects, her patterns, she goes by Telly Bean Knits on Ravelry. This is a bag made by my mom, quilted bag with some batik fabric on the inside. And this is another Stephanie Lotven pattern. It is the Easter basket cowl. I know it is past Easter, but I'm thinking of it as a springtime cowl, and I am on section 8 of 10, I think is the total number. So this colorwork section, one more colorwork section, and then the border, and this is what it looks like. I believe this is how I was introduced to Stephanie Lotven, was through her mystery cowls. She has one for Halloween and for Christmas. So I think I've done 3 Halloween cowls and 2 Christmas ones. So this is where I'm at with it. It's very much a yellow and blue. So you'll notice that the tulips are blue, including the leaves, which are kind of a medium blue. And then this section are the chicks. You see that? And then the Easter eggs. So it's all crinkled up because it's on the needles. And then I am working on the carrot section. And again, the leaves of the carrot are blue, and then I will use an orange, which I'm almost done with the leaf section, and we'll switch over to the carrot yarn, which of course is an orange, and I think it's, so I used all of this from Stash, so that's this color. It's slightly pink, but that's okay. We know that carrots don't grow blue leaves, so the carrots can be slightly pink. And we also know that carrots can come in a variety of colors. Have you ever had a bunch of rainbow carrots? They still taste like carrots, but they're very pretty. So that's what this project is that I'm having fun. This is the one I'm hoping to finish before May 1st so that I can join the knit along party with the Love and Stitches membership. So I'm not a very active member. There is a ton that goes on, lots of Zoom calls, lots of interviews with designers. I mean, there's been a blanket knit along, which haven't participated in. I'm not much of a blanket knitter, although I do have one on the go right now that I've talked about, the 100-acre wood blanket, and I'm making a little bit of progress on it, but it is a very slow going project. And then this is the knit along that I'm currently working on. So it's in another bag made by my mom. So I love this kitty fabric. Represents our two little black kitty monsters, Herbert and Harley, who get along sometimes. They used to be really snuggly as kittens, and now they're just kind of angry teenage boys. I don't know. So this is an Andrea Mowry knit along, and I am knitting the Traveler. And I have been having a hard time mustering some enthusiasm for this because I am playing yarn chicken, and I think I know what to do. So I'm on my last bit of this Cascade 220 variegated multicolored yarn. I still have probably 40 or 50 more rows to go. And I'm working on the back. And I have this much yarn. So what my solution is, because I am doing this in two colors, you can see the ribbing is in a different color of Cascade 220. Sport weight, I am going to do the sleeves in that color. I am going to do the hood in that color, and probably finish up the back rows, which will be under the hood. So who cares? So that's my solution to this problem. It's an oversized, it's very squishy. It's going to be very warm. I'm not going to be able to wear this until this fall. So, but right now I'm having fun with the knit along, even though I don't participate in the Ravelry group. I'm more of a lurker than I am, like a active participant and stuff like this. So, but that's what happens when you have a busy life. But this is super squishy. It's just a lot of garter stitch. That's you can see the pattern's pretty cool. It's got a couple of rows of stockinette with like 3 rows of garter, so that's really fun. Lots of purling as I'm knitting in the flat, so that is part of. I mean, I don't mind knitting purls. I mean, I do get tired of it. I mean, I use the Norwegian purl, which is an Arne and Carlos technique. So you hold the yarn behind, but you bring it over with your needle and bring it through, and I kind of look how, there's a rhythm to it that's kind of a do-si-do, if you're familiar with that. So it's kind of a grab, poke, do-si-do, and then go on to the next stitch. I do have an acquisition. This is my last Woolen Women box. So in the cowl that I showed you, that pretty variegated color, the yellow and blue, that was a Denim and Daisies variegated color from, I want to say, well, it was obviously last year. Obviously, why do I say obviously? I mean, how would you know that? It's just that I've been, it was part of my retail therapy when I initially injured my shoulder last year, and but they have such compelling yarns that I can't help myself. And they have a candle, which I am burning one right now. And they usually smell pretty good. I think they are soy wax candles or hand poured. This is unbirthday cake. So this is a Alice in Wonderland theme. It comes with a pattern download. So this is Magic Heel. This is the Autumn Acorn. So I try to download the pattern, even though sometimes I really think the yarn is very much too pretty to use in socks that are just going to be underpants, in shoes, or slippers. So sometimes I try to work it into something else. It also comes with some hand lotion, which also smells pretty darn good. It also smells like kind of like a sweet treat. Comes with usually, I don't know what this is. It's some sort of a pin. So you can pin it on one of your project bags. And it comes with, reaching in the box. It's like in a box of Cracker Jacks, getting the prize out. You know, some reference. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. It's just kind of cute, little wood, made out of wood. There's always a couple stitch markers. So there's the white rabbit, and I can't quite tell what the blue thing is. Maybe it's a potion bottle, the Drink Me potion bottle. And then it comes with a bag. Now, you know that my mom makes me a lot of bags, so I do not need bags. They're cute though. This one's almost not big enough for the skein of yarn and a project and needle, so I don't know. Someday when I'm organized enough, I may do like a giveaway of all the project bags that I do not use. But that requires some organization and it requires some time. So here is the yarn. Like I said, isn't that too pretty for socks? And it it came with two. I do have an idea of what I could possibly knit this out of, but the colorway is such that it's a Summer Lee pattern. Cider House Socks, I think, is the name of the pattern that takes 3 colors. But I don't, and I think it's a cable, so I don't know that this colorway would lend itself to that. But I should download the sock pattern to see what the pattern is, to see if it would lend itself to that. So Woolen Women Fibers, super fun. It's an 80-20, so pretty squishy. But this is my last one, at least until I'm compulsive again. So happy to share all of this stuff with you. And then we can talk about, I mean, well, I don't need to wrap it up in the paper. But, you know, I don't know if this is even going to fit in this bag. So, I don't know. I could use it as a notions bag. I have lots of notions that do need organizing. So, I wonder what this counter came from. I'm not sure. Oh, I know. And that is the knit along, the Traveler. So it all fits in here, but you know, I kind of would not want to have to disrupt it to get out a project. So let's continue talking about life and horsemanship. So that's all the knitting that I have going on right now. So if you're here just for the crafty stuff, thanks for staying with me for these, 18 minutes or so, or 20 minutes, however long the intro will be when I put it together. So on to non-knitting stuff. Work is work. I certainly have a lot less enthusiasm for it since we've had the return to office that's completely meaningless to me. Although yesterday I went in and I got to talk to one of my other colleagues who is a horse person. I got to talk to her for, 15 minutes about what she's doing with her horses and all that kind of stuff. So that was fun. Could life go on without it? Could work go on without it? Of course. And what happens is I end up, working really hard for, 6 to 8 hours, and then I get restless and I can't stand it anymore. And so I leave, and I leave at a time where it's just an hour to get home, which makes sense to me. So, and I talked to one of my colleagues yesterday. She supervises people. She supervises field staff. And she said, it makes sense for her to come in once a week. Makes a lot of sense. It's a drive for her. She comes from the south, from a long ways away, but she said it makes sense for her and she's happy to do that. Coming in twice a week does not make any sense, and that's the current mandate. For me, I don't supervise anyone. Most of the people I work with are either at another office location. So, the so-called water cooler chats that are supposed to generate ideas doesn't happen. We always meet virtually. We have great tools to meet virtually. We're very efficient at it. And a lot of my partners are also, the people I meet with are external, they also have the same tools to meet virtually. And the time it takes to meet in person isn't necessarily a good use of our time. It makes sense to meet quarterly or maybe even monthly with internal partners, and that's fine. But to drive down twice a week to warm up a chair is ridiculous. So as you can tell, I'm super frustrated by it. It has taken some of the meaning out of my work. And I will admit that the last couple of weeks have been like spring breakish. So that a lot of people have been out of the office, and some of the normal work that I would be doing, it's been a little bit slow. So having it be slow sort of it's hard to keep interested in your work when it's slow. So very frustrated by it. I am, looking for other work. I'm not going to just take anything, but I am looking for other work. And I am aware of recently a critical team member to one of our internal systems that had a big changeover since last year has moved on. And it is definitely a loss. They are rehiring for that position, but it is going, the transition time of this team member leaving and then bringing another person in who is trained and getting them up to speed is going to take time, and it's going to impact our level of service. So what I am curious about is, what is the return of investment? And the investment, as I have said, for the county, from what I understand, is between $20 and $30 million. And that was, I don't know, a few weeks ago. It could be more by now. What is the return on investment for that? So I also saw that the county the executive's office is going to do a employee engagement survey. And I think compared to the last one, this one's going to be a lot different. The last one, which wasn't even, it might have been a year ago, it was about 87% positive, which is fantastic. I don't think they're going to get that now. I know I'm not going to, my review is going to, well, you can guess what my review is. But let's move on, shall we? Horses. So I talked about horses a little bit this morning on the walk out to the barn. I did take Odin on his PT exercises up and down that road. I only do that once a week because it's very hard for him, especially the very steep part that goes up from the creek up to the garage. It's super steep right there, and he can walk up it just fine, but downhill is really hard for him. So I try to minimize that. We try to go slow, and then we walk up and down that and up the gentler slope to the barn and back down a couple times until the timer rings, and then we go, Odin grazes in the lawn, which he loves because the grass is very lush right now. So I let him graze for about 5 minutes, and then we go back. So he's losing weight. His weight is between, according to the weight tape, I do the weight tape every Friday also. His weight tape is between 1137 and 1157. So he's almost at his goal weight of 1,100 pounds. It wouldn't surprise me if he can go even further, because he's still, even with that, he still has a fair amount of like padding around his shoulder blades and on his ribs. And it would be nice to be able to feel his ribs a little bit more. I think that will help his arthritis in a much better way. Excuse me. There's high pollen count today, so excuse me for that. So I'm thrilled with that. He does not love his diet, but I try to make it as easy as possible for him. He gets about 18 pounds of hay a day, maybe a little bit more, and then he gets soaked beet pulp, which is a good soluble fiber for him, and then he just gets a teeny bit of alfalfa pellets and cubes. And honestly, the hay cubes, I was feeding him when I first started this diet. I was like, okay, I'll do 8 pounds of hay cubes and 10 pounds of hay, thinking that would, well, no, he still gained weight on that, even though the weight of it was equivalent. And he would just like slurp down the soaked hay cubes, and then he'd be hungry for a long time. Well, and alfalfa is such a calorie dense product that it's, even with the minimal amount, it would be like, me trying to lose weight and, eating cake. It's like, I'm going to limit my diet to cake for half the day, and then the other half of the day I'm going to eat salad. Well, I'm probably not going to lose weight doing that. So all that to say, he's getting just like 4, what I can fit in my hand of the hay cubes, and I can fit 4 comfortably in my hand, and they get soaked, and he gets those as part of his dinner at night. And then he gets like 2 tablespoons of like alfalfa pellets in the morning. So very limited that, and doing his exercises most days. And I am seeing an improvement. So that is very encouraging. Braggy, like I was saying, building connection. One thing I realized probably this morning is that it's been since I separated the boys, and I separated them because of Odin's arthritis, and they just horse around, too much when they're together, and it just was not helping Odin's arthritis. And plus, when they're together, they eat each other's food, and they're on very different diets. And one thing I realized about Braggy is that everything he learned from Odin, like coming to me, he learned from Odin. So now that he's on his own, he does not know what to do, and he would rather be out there than coming to me, which is why I talked about he needs to be in a smaller area. It's easier for me to work with him. He's in that small pen just overnight, and then when I need to take Odin out of the barn because he runs around and hollers, and I don't want him to hurt himself, and he's safest in that small pen. And then he gets out, and then I can let him out in a bigger area. But my goal is to build connection with him so that he's glad to see me. He's like, oh, hey, yeah, I want to engage. So I've been trying to play the really fun games with him, like playing target, put your nose on this thing. And he loves that. It's easy for him. I give him cookies in his stall. He still struggles being in his stall. Yesterday I got him to come into his stall, and he was eating. And then I had this idea that I needed to chop down these blackberries that are behind the barn, which he cannot see, but he can hear the thrashing around. Well, that scared him out of his stall, and it was hard to get him to come into his stall yesterday afternoon for the evening feeding. So, and it takes him a long time to build that trust and confidence back. So that's my main goal for him. My trainer's coming today. We are going to do some other preparatory training that will help him for the clinic that is on May 15th. So that's less than a month away. We're confident that he can trailer there, and it's going to be a big weekend for him. He is going to have to spend the night in a strange place, in a stall. So that's another reason for the small pen, just to get him used to that. So that's what we are prepping for today. And then I have a riding lesson on the lovely, hopefully I get to ride Ember, the lovely thoroughbred mare that I rode at the obstacle clinic, working equitation clinic a couple weekends ago. So that's all the news for now. Thank you for hanging with me, and thank you for listening to my griping. If you have any thoughts or suggestions about, moving forward, please let me know. Life, horses, knitting, any knitting ideas you have. Any suggestions you have for the podcast as well. I would really appreciate it. So thank you, everyone. Have a great week and enjoy your projects and your critters.